Welcome back to With the First Pick. We are here. Day 2 of the Senior Bowl is officially over. Another beautiful sunset here in Mobile, Alabama. Producer Striker with us as well. 48 degrees in Mobile, if you're wondering, weather on the nines. Before we get going, let us know if there are any players that we don't talk about that you guys maybe saw on social media or you watched the telecast live that you want to give a shout out to, because we're going to go through some of our favorites on day 2. I'm Ryan Wilson, of course, JP Acosta for Pushing the Pile here all week, so I'm excited about that. JP, I'll start with you. We can get to quarterbacks in a second, but any one person get your attention as we finish up day 2 here?
I honestly think the most impressive quarterback this week has been Luke Altmaier from Illinois.
Oh, you're my guy, Cole Payton. Okay, let's go.
I think he's obviously athletically limited. He's going to be a limited guy, but he gets the ball out with timing, accuracy. I think he threw the best passes of the week, despite not being like super wow. Like Taylor Green threw a pass 50 yards downfield to Malachi Fields, and we're definitely going to talk about later. But Altmaier just has the ability to play with timing, pace, and I think he understands an NFL offense and how he wins and what his limitations are. So when you think about a guy that's going to be sort of a spot starter, backup, knowing who you are and what your limitations are going to put you on an NFL roster.
Yeah, and that's a great call, because it felt like to me, I'm actually curious what you think. It feels like we haven't had an opportunity to see the quarterbacks let it loose like we have in recent years, or am I just making that up?
I think there's been a little bit of timidness. I also think that's part of some of these quarterbacks are not exactly gunslingers. Altmaier is not a very aggressive downfield passer. I'm curious how healthy Gary Nussmeier is. And I guess the most aggressive downfield pass is probably Taylor Green. But I do think with day 2, there's a little bit more verticality. I think there's some more explosives. But I do just think Altmaier just had the ability to keep the offense moving. And I think that's the biggest thing that you want to see if you're a guy that's probably going to end up going day 3.
Yeah, that's right. Again, in his favor, the quarterback class is going to be pretty wide open after 1.5. We'll throw Ty Simpson in there. And after that, we don't know what's going to happen. Carson Beck is probably going to be a day 2 guy. He's not here. Played the national championship game last week, of course. I'm going to go with a guy who played in the semifinals. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but Jacob Rodriguez, linebacker out of Texas Tech. All he does is make plays. And we're doing team drills. We're just tackling. The dude still gets strip sacks or fumbles in the middle of the field. With your guy Adam Randall, unfortunately, we're talking about yesterday. Randall can hold the ball. It's just unfortunate for him, but a big play for Jacob Rodriguez. But this always seems to be the case with Jacob Rodriguez. Good things happen when he's close to the ball, even in 7-on-7 or team drills. That was the case there. So no surprise, and I think he's going to – we'll see. He's 6'1", 233. Linebackers sometimes get pushed down unless they're the Arvell Reese's of the world. I think he's a day 2 guy. He may end up going on day 3 and the team's going to get a steal. We'll see, but he certainly has not hurt himself this week of practice.
And I think when you watch guys, you can say like, oh, this guy was a former wrestler. You can tell. Or a guy's a former basketball player. You can tell. Jacob Rodriguez is a former quarterback, and you can tell when he plays the game, he has the vision of a quarterback. I think there was a play to end the national team practice today where he gets a pick off of a really great pressure by Nadame Tucker, who's been really good this week as well. But you can see him reading the eyes of Sawyer Robertson, and that's the signature Jacob Rodriguez play. He is always around the ball, and that's something you really just can't teach. I know that he's not going to be the biggest, fastest, strongest linebacker, but you can't teach his ability to be around the ball. I think that's really stood out for me. Rodriguez.
Speaking of around the ball, we'll mention 2 other guys, and we'll circle back to the quarterbacks. People like to start there. Kyle Lewis out of Pitt, the sort of tweener. He's around the ball yesterday and today, and all over his tape in 2025. And of course, your guy, Bud Clark, out of TCU, the safety who, I don't know if I mentioned this yesterday, but had 4 interceptions in 2025. 2022 tied the TCU record for interceptions with 5. I think I said Ardarius Washington. So 2 other guys. Let me ask you this. It feels like, in addition to my quarterback theory, it feels like the defenses have been dominated a little bit more than the offenses.
Yeah, I think it stems from the offensive and defensive lines. I think defensive lines have been really good this week, but the secondary play has been so good. It's so varied. We got these big physical corners on one side where you have like the American team has Ephesians Price Socket, Davidson Ethanosis, who just these big, tall, long corners.
Takario Davis here, is he?
Takario didn't play. I think he's still nursing an ankle injury.
But
even then, like
for Washington,
he's also a massive player. And then I think on the national team, you don't really have that same size, but you have quick triggers to the ball. Bud Clark's the biggest example of that. Full pads came on today, and Bud Clark would not stop talking. It was incredible. That's the one thing you want to see when you watch defensive back play. If you're gonna be talking trash all the time, you got to back that up. And he backed it up. He had a quick trigger downhill. He was really good matching tight ends and receivers on hand coverage, which I think is really going to translate as well.
It's funny because when I talked to Bud the other day, he said, "I'm happy to make run bits all day long and plug the A and B gaps as I need to. The issue is I'm just not. I don't weigh 330 pounds, but it's not from lack of trying. So when that shows up on tape, and when teams talk to him, they know that he'll be instrumental in the run game. So that's just one more feather in his cap as he goes through the draft process. All right, you mentioned Sawyer Robertson. So let's circle back to the quarterbacks, and I've been pumping up Sawyer for days and weeks now. And if I had to grade his 2 days so far, it's probably a C. And yeah, nothing's really stood out. You mentioned the interception, and the guys aren't really letting it go and slinging it. Maybe outside of you mentioned Luke Altmaier, maybe Cole Payton's been throwing it a little bit, and Diego Pavia. But if we're ranking these guys, Sawyer might be near the bottom.
Yeah, and I think Sawyer Robertson, he's obviously helped and been beneficial with Josh Cameron also being here, and a lot of his best passes have gone to Josh Cameron. But you can tell he's playing a little hesitant. And I thought that was a little interesting, especially because he should be the one throwing the ball downfield a lot. He comes from an air raid offense. They threw the ball a lot in college, so you're sort of expecting him to kind of let it rip. But it's felt like there's been a little bit more. He's been timid this week, so I'm hoping tomorrow he sort of lets it rip a little bit more. Like really tries to, like you said, there's nothing left to use at this point. It's day 3 of the Senior Bowl. The game, you're probably only going to get maybe like a quarter and a half of game time.
Right.
So this is going to be your last shot to really impress scouts.
And the other thing I'll say about Sawyer, I talked about one of his favorite plays from last season, and it was a seam ball to Michael Trick, freakish athlete. In the very next play, at least his Kansas State game, he threw a jump ball down the sidelines and straight one-handed it. A couple seam balls he did complete late in the practice that felt like that he felt fine ripping it because the point he made, that certainly JP, when the linebacker's running up the seam, the tight end, he can't see what the quarterback's doing. So maybe he felt comfortable in that sense, but I want to see him open it up and go from there. I mentioned Diego Pavia. Let's circle back to him real quick. And, he's going to be a late day 3 party free agent almost certainly. And we'll see what his future looks like in terms of position and all the other stuff. One of the things he'll sling it. He's not afraid to let it go. But one of the things that stood out to me, they did a quarterback end around and he sprinted 60 yards to the end zone, sprinted back, and then got in the huddle to call the play.
Yeah.
And that's a little thing, but when you talk to teams, those are the little things they pay attention to. When a quarterback goes to the interception, they want to see what the quarterback does after he goes to the interception. Does he drop his head or just try to go make the tackle? And that's one of those things that Diego Pavia, if you think he's, too far over the edge or not far enough, those things stick out and they get you on rosters.
I think it sometimes gets overused in the scouting community, but Diego Pavia is the definition of the game.
Yeah.
If you don't really see it in practice, you got to wait until the lights come on. You got to wait until there's actual gameplay going on. But I actually do think Diego Pavia is sort of impressed me with his process under center. Doesn't look like he's been a fish out of water. He didn't take a snaps under center. There have obviously been some fumbles because he's working with these offensive linemen for the first time, and they're also cross-trained a lot of them stuff. But he looks comfortable in this area. So it's something that's going to be a big feather in his cap is that he's 5'10" and still comfortable under center. So if he's able,
he appreciates the fact that you said he's signed in
5'9", 7'8", we'll give him the 1'8". Like we'll give him that for the sake of him. But he is actually there hasn't been anything that's detracted, but there hasn't been anything that's sort of boosted his stop. He's continued to do what Diego Pavia normally does.
He's the exact Diego Pavia we saw dominating the league.
Yeah.
If he showed up at 6'5", we'd have a different conversation. But he's still Ryan Wilson height. Let's talk about Cole Payton real quick too out of North Dakota State. I want to get your thoughts on this, JP. He certainly helped himself. I checked my notes real quick. I had him as probably a mid-day 3 developmental guy. He's interesting. He can run a little bit. How much has he helped himself?
I think it's difficult always for FCS quarterbacks who aren't Carson Wentz or Trey Lance or guys that have been on NFL radars. And it's also going to be difficult because he's a first-year starter.
Thank you for coming out
He spent a lot of time at North Dakota State
University of South Alabama
as a full-time starter for North Dakota State.
Be sure to
But I
drive
think
home
he's
safely.
helped himself a little bit by
Go
actually
Spears
being
Mobile.
willing to throw the ball down
Yes.
the field. That's what scouts want to see in this all-star game, all-star practice scenario. They want to see guys who are willing to let it rip. You don't know them, they don't know you, but you do know that if you get the ball to them in the end zone, they'll go score touchdowns. And I think Cole Payton's ability or just willingness to take shots downfield whether it results in him being drafted or not, it's going to be a nice addition to his draft profile.
Right. And you talked about this with Jared Stidham playing in the championship game. He's not throwing check down Charlies. He's letting it rip. Um, you know, perfectly cute Nelly. So striker's not going to have to worry about the copyright infringement. So I'll let you get on that striker. Let's see what else. Oh, I wanted to mention this. Two guys that balled out of the Shrine Bowl and graduated here and graduated the sense they flew over, not one better than the other. Chris Hilton, the wide receiver out of LSU, and then Daryl Jackson Jr., one of my favorite players, and I'm sure you know him, he's a big guy, Florida State defensive lineman. Let me double check my notes. There was a couple of team snaps where you had Lee Hunter, TJ Parker, and Daryl Jackson Jr. all on defensive line.
I know. The Lee Hunter and Daryl Jackson Jr. are so fun to watch because they're just this big, bone, and strong defensive tackle. And they don't wear, it's so funny watching them play because they don't wear wrist tape and they don't wear gloves. That is the most throwback defensive tackle that you could get. And Daryl Jackson Jr., like I said, came from Shrine. I also think he did the bowl. So he's just here. He's ready to play guys. He showed up and he put both defense on his pass rush 101s. It's just that raw power output that's going to immediately boost your run game. Some of the pass rush upsides are a little limited, but with how offense is changing to a little more gap scheme and a lot more power counter, you're going to need true nose cap. So that means guys like Daryl Jackson, guys like Dominic Orange are going to go a lot earlier because you need guys to stop the runs.
And I should mention, because for the longest time, it felt like this defensive line wasn't where it had been in recent years. But guys are emerging. You guys are coming here, for example. Guys are going to Shrine and making names for themselves. So that's always fun to watch. I talked to Ethan Oniawa, who is the Clay Garden State, came over from Rice, Bale engineering major at Rice. He's all business. But I asked him, so what was it like moving number one from a position that you played to one that you didn't? And then going up against Caden McDonald he said the thing is, that guy is freakishly strong, and he's someone got stronger as the season went on, which is sort of hard to wrap your brain around. There'll be plenty of time to talk about Caden, but I just want to throw that in there because we were talking about these defensive tackles here. What else we got here?
I do think this defensive line class is really fascinating because initially it was like, oh, this is a weaker edge class, but I think there are going to be a lot of guys on day 2 where if you want to get a guy like the biggest example is Tuli Tuipulotu from the Chargers. Gets drafted day 2 and immediately becomes a quality starter, borderline a very good player. There are a lot of guys like that. The Win McCower go through guys. Other guys stood out like Derek Moore had another really good day. Gabe Yakis had a good day from Illinois. You think about on the other side with the national team, you think about the Dame Tucker, Western Michigan is another guy. I think he's really made himself a lot of money this week. I was talking with one of my friends, and I was like, it's sort of similar build-wise and play style Western Molten Mara. Colorado State, who came here and had another really good week. Got drafted on day 3 by the Dolphins. It's a situational pass. So I think this defensive line, this edge class, has really showed up this week and has been really impressive. I mean, you can even go down to guys like Tyreek Sapp, who decided to switch from stride to seeker. He's also been impressive despite entering in maybe like 6'1", 275. So he's had a lot of really fun edge defenders on day 2 who really fill out the roster.
Let's talk about Derek Moore for a second because he had the insane rep yesterday. And then he went up against Maxie and Nashua, the right tackle for Arizona State. He was literally started playing football 5 years ago when he started at East LA Community College. Didn't play in high school. And he is raw, but there's the tools just jump off the screen. So one-on-one rep, it was a stalemate. I think you can grade it differently if you want. But as you showed me in the clip earlier, because, I treat social media like I'm 100 years old, they got after.
Yeah.
Anything to take away from that other than guys just get, having a good rep?
It's full bags. That's going to happen. Now it's time to make some money. If I was telling some of my friends, this is the money making day. It's full pads, full contact. This is what in NFL practice is going to be like when you make it to that level. And I think Derek Moore is a great foil for Max Ainator to pull out that intensity. Because Derek Moore is going to do one thing. He's going to run through somebody's face. He did that to Markel Bell yesterday. He's been doing that all week. I think Zion Young is another guy that I mentioned, a big, long, strong, he had a pass rep when they're working on pass rush stunts and games up front today. They had guys like looping, and Zion Young comes around on a loop, and Garrett Nussmeier is like, oh my God, I'm supposed to throw this screen, but there's no way I'm getting it around his arms. And he swats the pass down. That's another guy where you're thinking he might not have the most juice as a pass rusher, but he can win going speed to power. His long arms are going to make an impact.
And that's an important thing to remember. Just because a guy gets drafted to your favorite team and he goes on day 3, 4th, 5th, 6th round, doesn't mean that dude can't play. Just means he's not getting off the bus looking like an scared. That's okay, because there are things you can do well. All right, let's talk. I mean, we barely talk about offense. Let's talk about some wide receivers here. Ted Hurst had another big day. I looked up his numbers. He's over 6'4", 33 and 2/8 inch arms, which are the same length as TJ Parkins, the edge rusher out of Clemson. Nuts. He's 207. Is 9 and 5/8 inch hands. So everything you want, and it checks out. If he had gone to, no, if you were telling me this or talking to someone else, he'd gone to Power 4 school, he's probably first round conversation. I had a second round grade on him coming to the week, and I may actually have to move that up. We were talking to our buddy Keem Dermish at HQ, who's a Cleveland Browns fan. And if the Browns got him in the second round, got some offensive linemen in round 1, fill some other needs, if they're going to roll with Shador and or Dylan, I think that's a great place to start. Any of the wide receivers get your attention?
Josh Cameron to BYU, or not BYU, Baylor.
Why is he wearing a running back now?
I have no idea. He wore it at Baylor. It was like a 34 is an ugly number for a receiver, but he stands out just because of how strong. He's not going to create a lot of separation. I still think he struggles sinking his hips. But when you're 6'1", 223 and have strong hands, you can make a lot of catches outside of your frame. He did that today. I think the intensity with full contact, full pads, where he kind of shine in that area because DBs were kind of draped all over him, and he was still creating a window for his quarterback. And I think a lot of quarterbacks need guys who may not create that separation, but just put it in the air. Just put it into the sand, and he'll go and bring them in. I think another guy I talked about on the HQ, Tyler Montgomery, John Carroll,
He plays, man.
continues to make the best catch of the week, best catch of the day. He had another one where he went up over Chris Johnson at DB from San Diego State. And again, it's really impressive because Tyler Montgomery's 5'11", 190. He's not this big, hulking receiver.
He plays way bigger than that kid. I was shocked when I saw the height weight.
He plays bigger than his actual listed size. And that's going to play in the NFL because when you come from a school like John Carroll, you have to play a little bigger. You should make John Carroll opponents look like smaller guys. So Tyler Montgomery is really someone who I still worry about some of the consistent separation. You can go up and get the ball like he can. I thought that was really impressive. And then Wisconsin's Vinny Ansys, I get you guys, another guy that really, he might have been the best separator today at Senior Bowl. Just consistently from the slot, from outside. I also think he had a really good understanding of route concepts where there was a play where he's breaking open over the middle of the field, but he also creates separation for his tight end. So there's two guys open, Anthony and tight end, and he does that. This offense is rough. His drop rate is very concerning, but when you come from a school like Wisconsin that doesn't really throw the ball, that had a lot of QB questions this year, that's going to be another guy where you want to go back and watch the tape and understand how these drops happen because he's consistently creating separation in there.
Obviously, with Malachi Fields,
Yeah.
he and Taylor Green hooked up. I mean, if those two guys stood on one another's shoulder, they'd be about 12, 13, 14 feet tall. But another guy that he's built like TJ Parker in when he gets off the bus, Malachi Fields. And we know Taylor can sling it. You talked about it a moment ago, but he dropped it in the bucket. And I think one of the things that I sort of noticed Taylor and trying to work on, and that's he talked to me about it a couple days ago, is layering the ball to the second level. We saw a little bit of that in the drills, but it's hard to get a sense of that. But that was a perfectly thrown ball. Malachi laid out for it, made a fantastic catch, and he finished the catch. He completed the catch when crashed into the ground, which will be a conversation, I'm sure, at some point in his NFL career. But I was happy to see that because when you see guys that size outside of Ted Hurst and George Pickens, consistently separated is the thing that necessarily is part of their tool.
Yeah, the body control for Malachi Fields has stood out this week, and I think he has been given a lot of interesting opportunities. There was a play in 1v1 where Malik Muhammad tried to jam him at the line of scrimmage, and Malik Muhammad had that ref come laying yesterday. Yeah, Malachi Fields was very different. He's going to create a separation, made the catch. I thought that was very impressive. And then another guy, he's not a receiver, but I've sort of wanted to go back and watch his tape, is Stanford tight end Sam Rouse. Yeah. I think, again, another guy similar to a lot of receivers where they don't come from elite passing offenses. It's going to have to be sort of a guys, just trust me. on this one. He moves like a tight end that you really want to get involved in the passing game. And the fact he's able to create some separation against these linebackers really helps their stock. So he's another guy that you want to go back and watch to sort of understand, like, hey, why did the production happen as much at State?
Right. No, that's right. And trying to think his name escapes me. The Stanford tight end from last year transferred to Georgia, was at the Shrine Bowl.
Yeah.
Didn't get drafted, but he's a good player. And the fact that he was just goes to show that you can play a position that maybe some
Dan Urasek. That's his name.
there he got it. He fooled it. Urasek. That's right. I like his tape at Georgia, and I wondered why. I understand why he transferred to Georgia, but he was seldom used, understandably, at Georgia. But had some good tape at Stanford. Found his way into a roster. He got some playing time, and there'll be some guys like that. Roush's going to get drafted, no doubt about it. I want to talk a little bit about the running backs. I mentioned your boy Adam Randall had the fumble, but they used him a lot in swing ins because they know that he could run with the ball in his hands. We saw that. He has straight line speed for days. Jamari Taylor at UVA is a fun player, transferred from North Carolina Central. Hasn't done a whole bunch yet. Halon Black was here. I talked to him today. Had a fumble. I'm not worried about that. I don't know if anyone is angrier than Halon Black. So there's some running backs I want to continue to see do their thing. Any of those guys stick out to you?
Kalon Black runs with urgency. That's something that you really like to see from running, especially at the Senior Bowl game, where there's a lot of indecisiveness. I think Nick Singleton struggled with this. There was an indecisiveness in the vision on take Penn State, and that sort of carried over at Senior Bowl this week. There's none of that with Caleb Black. If he sees it, he's going 100%. I think that's what it'll translate to the hell level. So even if he's not a Del Cal, a knee back, the fact that he's decisive and seeing his holes as only that one. I think another guy that's Katron Allen, mixing with his teammate Penn State. He's not going to run fast. He's probably the guy the most watch more tape. It's like if you were just a tenth of a second faster, some of those like explosive runs return to touchdown.
See this because I've had this conversation with myself. I might be at the point in this journey where I'm drafting Katron over Nick.
Yeah, 100%. I'm drafting Katron over Nick.
If he had a field day, you're taking Nick all day long. But at the combine, yeah, like there's sort of the t-shirts and shorts Olympics, but it just doesn't consistently translate. Katron to me is more David Montgomery than the Jahmyr Gibbs you were hoping to get out of Nixon.
Yeah, I think if you gave Mick Singleton Katron Allen's vision, he would be top team because of the athleticism you give him to ask. But Katron Allen just finds ways consistently to make guys miss. That's what Singleton did really do. The vision, I think the burst initially for Katron Allen is good. He just doesn't have the pull away speed. So I think another guy that's gonna, if you have lightning, if you have an explosive back already, you need some guy to grind out those short yardage roads, take some hits off, sort of like a Daisy Montgomery if you're doing situation. I think that'd make a lot of sense for Katron Allen.
So I talked to Kalon this morning. His comp, my comp for him was sort of common on guys they had to check out just because he's like, I'm going to kill what's ever in front of me. He went towards nuance with Josh Jacobs, but I could see that as well. I also asked him, just sort of, I didn't want to ask him about Fernando because I'm sure he gets that question, but I asked him about Pat Keegan, the center, who's one of my favorite offensive linemen in this class. And he said that guy gets the best pregame and halftime speeches anywhere ever, which even elevates my opinion of him even higher. So just something to put a pin in, and we'll circle back on that when we start talking about the interior offensive linemen. All right, we're going to get out here on. I got you talked about the cornerbacks. I'm going to get out on this, and you can tell me what you want to talk about here, JP. But Chris Johnson, the cornerback out of San Diego State, I love his tape in the fall. He actually weighed more than I thought. I think he's closer to 190 than 180, which is what he was unofficially during the fall, which is great for him. Hasn't necessarily slashed. I want to continue to see that. But I think he's a top 75 guy given the way that he plays because he plays. I liken him to mentally in terms of his mental approach to Devin Witherspoon, not carrying. He thinks he's more Cam Chancellor than undersized quarterback, and I love that mentality in the way he plays, but down the field and coming on his run fits there. So I want to see more from him on day 3. I still love this game, but just hasn't quite splashed yet.
And I think with Chris Johnson, the thing that stays out when you watch his tape, if you are a team that wants cover 2 corners, quarter half, which feels like where the NFL is going, we see a lot of Mike McDonald's defensive schemes sort of finding its way around the NFL. Chris Johnson is a perfect example of a guy that fits in that defense. You want him with vision on the quarterback because his trigger coming downhill is where he's best. He's a monster in the run game. You can sling him into the run fit. I actually thought before they fired Tom McDermott, he was a perfect Buffalo Bills corner because you want to get him involved in the run fit. He's a great cover 2 corner. I'm a little bit worried about his play when the ball's in the air, and you saw that a lot against Tyler Montgomery catch today. He went up over Chris Johnson and couldn't find the ball. So maybe he's a guy where you just want him playing the ball in front. But I do think there's a use for that in NFL. Like you said, there's a lot of cover 2, a lot of quarters heavy teams that just get organized in the squat and just trigger down on the ball as soon as it gets into your area. So I think there's a role for Chris Johnson in the NFL. Also, a very good gunner on special teams. That is one of
which you cannot special teams ace. Media folks like myself forget about special teams. Rand reminds me all the time how important special teams is. So I'm glad you brought that up. Excuse me. But that's important. The other thing, again, I'm sort of reminiscing. It feels like cornerbacks are just grabbing guys and getting fast consistently on the one-on-ones more so than usual.
It's been a little interesting with the BBs getting flagged or not. There's been a lot of interest. There's been a lot of unevenness with the refs. I think Bud Clark was taking some issue with how the rep for call today in 1v1s, but I do think it's a great learning and lesson for a lot of guys in the Senior Bowl roster. We talked about Ignosa, we talked about Malik Muhammad. Those are both very grabby guys, but I think their ability to just be patient and ability to win and press without being grabby is being tested.
Yeah.
And that's going to happen at the NFL level. You're going to have calls that you're going to disagree with. So I think finding out how they adapt to it has been one of the biggest ways I want to see them grow, especially tomorrow.
Yeah. My buddy Rick Spielman used to always say, look, what do you do with these grabby corners? Because in college, they let them get away with so much. Because you have your DB coach put boxing gloves on, and then they don't have a choice. Joey Porter Jr., as a Steelers man, found a way to put on boxing gloves and still hold people. But that's a conversation for another time. All right, what do you want to see tomorrow? I think we both agree, Sawyer Robertson, we want to see him just lose. You throw 10 interceptions, but at least you win out. Going down with a fight. Anything else we want to see?
I want to see some more great pass rush, especially a lot of it from the offense, from defensive lines. I think guys like LT Overton have a really good day. He needs a really good day. Is sort of talked about. Yeah. He's a fascinating prospect. He came in shorter than I thought he would. Alabama listed him at 6'5". He's more 6'2" and 6'8".
He's Wilson. Biggs.
That's right. So yeah, he's like 6'2", 280. He's a little bit more of an in-between guy. He and Tyreek Sapp, I think he can have another really good day. And then I want to see some more good reps from Logan Taylor. A lot of the recognition's gone to Jude Bowery for good reason.
Yeah.
To Lewis Bond, who's played well. Michael Hutchins. But Logan Taylor's been really good. Guard from Boston College.
Yeah.
He's stonewalled a lot of guys this week.
And it's nice you cut out Lewis Bond, too, because he has had a quietly very good week.
Yeah, he's quietly had another good week. So I want to see if Logan Taylor can keep putting together another good string of practices because he's been consistently very good in pass pro.
That's great. That's a great call. I talked to Carver Willis today, the left tackle from Washington, who's worked inside. He works on outside today. He is one of the most athletic offensive linemen in space in the screen game. I asked him one of his favorite plays, and he showed me a screen where he ran a guy into the bleachers. So he's working his anchor, but I feel like we say that about everyone. So he's making that transition inside, and that was sort of interesting to watch for me. But anyone in the comments, let us know any guys that we missed, any of your thoughts about what you saw transpire day 1 and day 2, because, I'll take a look at them, and you can be nice or not be nice. I'll read them anyway, but I appreciate all you guys coming along for the ride. And thanks to my buddy, JP. And we have tomorrow to wrap up the Senior Bowl. It will be officially concluded 24 hours from now. So we will see you guys then.